Good morning, everyone. Well, kind of an exciting day. Dip and recovery. And where do we go from here? Well, let's go to the charts. So the sell-off began a little bit before the options expiration, which we were focused on for a possible turn or continuation of the uptrend. And so there's a movement lower. So as things were going down yesterday, it started to reach some support. And the initial thought was, could it get down there and tag that 50 MA? Well, it didn't quite get down there. And the question becomes, does it go down there? Well, maybe today. Um, you know, Overnight here, you see what's happening. And as we look at the charts, as we always do, bar by bar, uh, we got a wider range rejection bar on the previous 65-minute bar, which is suggestive that it's going to go down there. And with a pattern like this, right, there's always several scenarios, right? It goes sideways, it keeps going down, it flips back up. But a pattern like this historically suggests it's coming down here. And many times it's going to take out the low because that's where the stops are. So once it gets cleaned out, if that's in the cards today, maybe it tags the 50. So you should be ready down there thinking to be a buyer as it comes down, because it's down a whole bunch in a relatively short amount of time. Now, we've been talking for a while about the narrow breadth and the breadth expanding and so on and so forth. So we look at other markets and say, okay, show me the Qs equally weighted. Doesn't look so bad. So there's still this underlying strength. There's still, right? Does the whole thing fall apart becomes the question during some corrective process, because this has the appearance of, as you can see, a head and shoulders top with a neckline that it would need to break through. The prices recovered, but they didn't break down like the Qs did, which is weighted more toward those big cap stocks. So we don't get the pre-market data so much here. It's probably moving lower. So we need to keep an eye on this to see whether it breaks down or whether it turns back up again. And you should set an alert up here to be aware of that, even if you're not following it. Don't need to follow it, but curious which way this goes. In any event, the Qs at the 50 MA, you should have an alert to be aware, or a heads up that it's there. Now we look at SPX and SPY. Bottoming tail bar, broke through the 20, big deal. Came down to support, and scrunch that up a little bit. And so it broke down through those pivot lows, coming down to the next. And like the Qs, at the moment, it looked like, oh, it can go down a bit further, but it didn't. What that communicates to us is that some traders or institutions are anticipating getting long on this pullback, and they jumped in ahead of reaching that support level, which is a signal of bullish sentiment. They want to get in, not looking for it to ultimately get down to the most opportune spot, and they start to come in. Now, whether they're right or wrong, we're going to see in the coming days. With patterns like this, sometimes they make V bottoms. Right now, it looks like it's heading down to take out that low, same wider range rejection bar, to retest that. Maybe it makes a lower low. But the highest probability patterns, they don't always happen. We don't always get the pitch we want, so to speak. But the highest probability patterns have at least two bars and sometimes three of stabilization before they push higher. Now, we don't have that. We've got a bottoming tail bar. One bar doesn't create a strategy. It gives us a piece of information. We put it in the context of the prevailing trend. And so this is what should happen in an uptrend as it gets close to support. And we'll see how far it goes. By the end of the day tomorrow, we're going to be closely looking at this weekly chart to see where this bar is and making some views as to, is that a breakout failure? We thought this failure here was a failure. It didn't follow through. So the breakout, often you would think, I think, after a 3 or 4 or 5 week consolidation, you had a resting period and it continues to move up. Well, right away it's stalling. Maybe that's because of the options expiration. It could be everybody's waiting to see what Powell's going to say. The jobless claims this morning came in higher than expectations. It was a pretty big jump. So that kind of supports, okay, Powell, everybody wants this. You got some data that allows you to do this and look like you're doing the right thing. So we need to see this comments coming through that they're going to provide what the markets want. Right now, for today, it looks like it go down there. And so markets, if it goes out that way, markets go down, they test some support. Maybe they come back up again. Powell says what he needs to say, and markets move back up. We shall see. Here we go. You can see the equally weighted here as it's coming up. Looks pretty darn good, right? Nothing wrong there. It's just a sleepy kind of a chart at resistance. It looked like it was going to roll over. Breadth expanded, up, up, up. Didn't make a new all-time high, but came up there, and so far just consolidating. Not a big deal. And so there is something more in alignment with the uptrend, bullish scenario, and we're going to see how this follows through. Okay. Just looking around here, may want to take a look at this Ethereum. It's down a little bit here, but in an uptrend, pulling back toward minus support, rising 20. Looks like it was up turnaround yesterday, so we'll see if that can get going. Let's take a look at Bitcoin. Had a deeper retracement. It's on major support. Not doing much here. Send alert up above the highs here, down below the lows. So nothing to do. I think most traders, institutions are waiting to see what happens as far as Powell's comments, and they've got the economic reports as of today. And what's tomorrow? There's some existing home sales. Keep an eye on that and interest rates today, since the home builders and residential construction stocks have improved, significantly over the last month or so. So Powell starts talking tomorrow at 10 o'clock. So. All right. Let's look at the futures. So YM was kind of not a big deal. It was down, but held up pretty good. Sort of a not a really strong one, but a bull flag. Push up here, kind of drifting lower. That looks okay. Just not much of anything at this moment. Nothing triggering. And Q's pulling back here. I said, the 65-minute chart looks like it's going to pull back further. There is some support right here where these bars are overlapping each other. But, this suggests it's going down. We'll see what happens inside day so far. S&Ps, inside day so far, same story. This, when I spoke yesterday in the green room, we talked about multiple time frames. And when, we look to the left, we look for pivots. Sometimes there are no pivots because we're condensing the data as we are here, 65-minute chart. But when we have what I spoke about yesterday and said, hey, there's a poke bar there. Well, what the hell's a poke bar? Well, it's a bar with like one, maybe two bars to the left and a bunch to the right. So I know if we went down and looked at a 15-minute chart and certainly a 5-minute chart, there's going to be a pivot low there. So the reason for some stabilization here, right, for the moment. The Russell futures on top of the 20, pulling back, minus support here, already down to the lows. from yesterday, so showing some relative weakness. This should be the one that starts to flip back up a little sooner based on its location in that prior move. That's what we'll be looking for to see if that actually happens. Gold continues to do nothing, but hey, yesterday was a green bar, okay, 1 bar. So maybe beginning to make a turn here. Some interest, of course. Silver, come on, so fill it in the chart. Just kind of messy, nothing to do there. But I like that reversal, but you got 2 pivot highs up there. I think it's in development mode, yet to be seen. Set an alert below yesterday's low, put an alert over here, maybe tomorrow. I'll get some more information tomorrow. Oil not doing anything, just kind of dead in the water here after this pullback. And interest rates, waiting for the 10-year to fill in here. And just consolidating. Everybody's waiting to see what's going to happen tomorrow in anticipation of the expectation, relatively high expectation that the Fed's going to cut. And we'll look at SPX, and you can see before I do that, our internals are neutral, not helping us in any way here at this time. We know SPY is down a bit. So yesterday came down to close to the far strike, and that was 45. So yesterday poked underneath there by a couple of strikes. And as always, we always look for some kind of capitulation or some kind of a move, not always capitulation, but some kind of a move to the downside to see with lower strike makes sense. And if things were going up, what kind of higher strike would make sense when we discern whether the markets are ready to make a turn there. So interestingly, yesterday, we didn't get any NYSE tick extremes. There was one that got close, but I'll put this on the chart here. Maybe I have it on this one. Hold on. You can see down here, it got close down here and in the latter part of the day. But it's interesting, it's going on for the last couple of years where these ticks have stayed pretty much in a neutral range while markets have been trending. So things change. And years ago, a trend like yesterday would have had multiple tick extremes. But in part, right, what you find is that the market environment begins to change to one that would be more bearish. And you say, well, Greg, yesterday was a bearish day. I get it. But when the market's truly bearish, you can get 4, 5, 6 negative bearish tick extremes under 1,000. So say, are we getting some kind of a turn here? I don't know. It's just a short-term turn, but sentiment has not turned to one of a bearish market environment as of yet. And so while mostly neutral yesterday, that's the takeaway from that. All right, we'll just take a peek at this and then I'll hand it over to Dan. By the way, those of you on social media, Dan and I share a tremendous amount of information here pre-market. We really appreciate when you hit that like button, and certainly you should subscribe to know when we're on. And you know what? You want to subscribe because in the near future, maybe starting next week, we're going to start coming on a couple of times a week in the afternoon to review some setups and when we're doing some scanning. So you'll want to be aware of that. All right. So it's right on the support here, right on the support right there where I have this line. And remember the big rejection bar there. All right. It gives us an idea where things are at. Cool, Robert. Glad you got to see the presentation yesterday. Oh, and thank you, Neil. You too. Yeah, you know what? It's always a rush. You want to talk in a more calm way rather than, people have used the analogy, Greg, I love your presentation, but it's like drinking from a fire hose. Well, I'm trying to deliver. some value there in a short amount of time. So anyway, there's another one today at 12 o'clock. I'm more focused on swing trading. All right, so prices are opening up around here. You can see based on SPY. Uh, and so where are we? It'll be interesting since there was a sell-off and a sharp recovery yesterday. Oh, 6,300. So the interesting part is it came up. It came up 45 handles, which would make sense because of the recovery. But I was wondering what went down. Oh, so the down move, okay. Kind of looked at that the wrong way in a moment. Interesting down there. So, this is what's happening right now. And so the little sell-off that's going here now to retest those lows, big bets increasing for that whole number down there. So what we'll do after the market opens, as we usually do, is go and look at what the high volume strike is for the calls and puts. Gives us some guidance as the likelihood as to where it's going to go. 64. I'm going to go with 64.20. So this is coming down, not coming down as much. 20. All right. So there you go. I'll drop a link in there for the presentation today, and to you, Dan, and can get a trial. Those of you that are watching on social media, come into the room with us. Go ahead, Dan.
Good morning. Yeah, yesterday morning we saw that hourly breakdown of the four horsemen, or three of the four at the time, and that's what gave us a short-term bearish bias. So we were looking for call spreads, day trade shorts. We only gave one bullish trade all day, and it was ENR. We just did a half lot because of the beautiful pattern. You can do the back half over the high, which small gap down looks like it's not going to trigger. But there's actually a lot of buy setups out here. But I did mention, so Greg even mentioned Ether. I said it's up a lot. It's a buy setup. There's a lot of these. I said I think that some things are ready for a bounce when we get a turn, but they could be setting up M tops because of the huge run on the weekly is what I'm concerned about. But Ether gapping down now, so I don't Bitcoin's been weak all day. That's a GTX, Thomas. It's fine, but you got to ask yourself, this is only a trade that I would be interested in if the broader markets were all in uniform bullish. So I think today is going to be another day trading environment. Don't be surprised if I don't get a single swing trade, or maybe a put spread or something. So that's just not good enough for me. I'd rather stay in cash. And that's interesting. That's an IPO, and that's a buy setup. So Sam, remember that thing we were talking about yesterday? And I'll show you a few more here on my list. Buy setups are controlled retracements from a V top. And whatever that one yesterday you showed me, it had 15 bars that it was retracing from. So yeah, that's an interesting one. IPO, so you don't have as much data to go on. But here, let me show you a few others here. SKT, no, that's an ascending triangle. Ascending triangle breakout. My alarm went off. Let me reset it. No, I got an alarm 3305. Wes, I think that was on your short list, but I don't like it. There's no void. Car I like as a day trade short under today's low. You got this end of day base. So the stop would be over this topping tail high on the 15, short on yesterday's low. Dan, strong, bullish daily, weekly, monthly, but it needs to chop around more. MGV, Alex mentioned, mega cap is doing fine. Gevo's a buy setup, Sam. Fluid retracement, pullback, reversal, and minor support. I got an alarm at 165, I think. Zion would be a breakout. It's extended on the 15. It should gap down, in which case you can set a new alarm. I will do that right now, assuming, yeah, it looks like it's gapping down to 53.50. So I'll set a new alarm 53.7. That's exactly what you wanted to do. Have a small bullish gap down and see if it can recover. I guess that's a buy setup. That's a textbook buy setup. You got a power breakout, you got a controlled retracement from a V top, and you got a reversal, a minor support. Why is it not showing me a 15-minute chart? And my minder here says it's gapping up 11 bucks. But that's a beautiful buy setup. Reddit is a buy setup, but it's a buy setup following a Climo. So they're still tradable, but don't expect a new high. That's all. We actually tried, what's today, Thursday? On Tuesday, we tried doing a bear call credit spread, and we just didn't get filled. STM, someone in the green room mentioned, I have an alarm up here somewhere. Just a breakout from a bottoming. CMG alarm went off. We have a long calls on that. Boeing, when I glanced at the Dow 30, is the biggest gainer right here, but there's no pattern is all. Gevo we mentioned and that. Okay, let's go to earnings now. Yeah, I don't have many here. Cody, I say that is a great example of that's a consolidation in a downtrend until proven otherwise. Y'all see that? Look at daily, weekly, monthly. Bearish price action, breakout failure, lower pivot high, declining 200. The consolidation in a downtrend, unless it had, a significant, bullish gap up. So that four stock is having trouble. 5 in, it's a mess. Oh, here's another Pelletier. This is a buy setup also, but it took out 2 prior pivot lows, so it broke the uptrend. But it's still a fluid retracement with a bottoming tail on volume, and it's actually holding up pretty well here. So that is a day trade long idea. And I already checked juice for tomorrow. There's no juice unless we go tighter, but we'll consider maybe doing a put spread for next week. NDSN, that's an igniting gap. And that's actually a good one. You know why? You know why, anybody? Because it's an igniting pro gap. It's at resistance, but it's not, believe it or not, it's not excessive. And how do you define excessive? Well, take Rick's course on gaps. And I don't mean that, demeaning. I mean it you know, it has to do with price action, multiple time frames, the void above, the shock. So that's a nice gapper that we want to watch just to see what happens at the open. Now, if it just comes slamming in to fill this gap, then I have no interest. Ideally, we want it to hold 50% of the gap. So just eyeballing, let's say 219, 220, 219. We want a controlled pullback above 219. And that's going to be our plan. Oh, Greg, I didn't even see what you typed. Yeah, I said the exact same thing as you hopefully heard. It's not excessive. Take your course. Yeah, Greg, take your course. Does that make sense? Go take your course. And you'll see what I'm talking about. Now, if it gapped to 240, I'd say it's excessive. Walmart. That was a buy setup, a sloppy one because it came down hard. But now we're talking earnings. It's an ugly gap here. But Targets was uglier yesterday. But we had a condor on this. We still managed a small gain despite that gap. YMM 1120 piece of garbage. You're going. AHG bullish gap, but it looks like it's an ADR. I don't like this. Billy ADR gapping down. Call spread if there's any juice. Oh, so it's gapping a 225. Now, see, in terms of a gap trade, that is a big fat nothing burger, as some of you guys say. The big fat sideways trend. There's no shock, there's no gap, there's no void, there's no nothing. So that is nothing as of right now. VNet now had this gapped over Tuesday's high, then I would have liked a 30-minute high because look at the weekly and monthly. So for you new people in here, I keep them small on purpose, and then, well, on purpose because I have limited space on the laptop. But I see enough of the chart, and then I can expand it if I like it. So see, weekly, monthly are in alignment. Had this taken out Thursday's high, but it's gapping down. So now I got nothing again. But I just like to point out interesting patterns because that's what we do here, right? Now that's also a buy setup, but it's after this monster move. Gapping to 44.26. See that kind of would have been my target is halfway up. So I got no interest in that. All right, almost done here on earnings. YSG is in a coma, nothing. CSIQ. Oh, that's ugly gap. That's an ugly gap on CSIQ solar. I actually have been watching SEDG. And look, SEDG is down a little, but still holding. And that's exactly what I said over the last 2 days, that I want this to bobble around for a week or so. So that's still on the list. Fizzler would it is a buy setup. So the only thing we're lacking is a reversal bar, but it's a definite watch. So I'm gonna set up and down alarm that's in a power downtrend on the 15-minute chart. Look, I'll just set an alarm at 200 on the downside. Upside 208. And I know that tan looked like it was gonna pull in also, yeah, see, so that's why we were holding off on said G. Oh, all right, look at Knudsen, we talked about bottom right. Say it's a gap and go. So, when it was gapping right here, when we were talking about it pre-market to 222, look, it's $10 higher from where Greg and I were talking about. So AD line gapping down negative 1300, Walmart selling off the four horsemen starting off bearish here. So I'm just but look, and Knudsen is what we say is on its own page. He does not care what the broader market's doing. This deck we had is a directional watch over the high. So now I'm just going to cancel it. I'll keep my alarm on deck. Yeah. ENR low alarm. Okay, so it's an early alarm, but I don't like the depth of the gap into yesterday's and into Tuesday's bar. It's an early alarm, but that's not a good count. And see that's the problem. Even though that's a beautiful chart yesterday, that's the problem when you don't have the broader markets on your side. And you all in the green room hear me say that all the time. That pattern's okay, but I don't like the market. Look at this DG we were watching yesterday. See, so that one gapped down also. Guild was a buy setup we were watching, but then it closed with a topping tail. I know there was some news today, but still. All right, this pesky from YouTube is looking great. Looking great, pesky. Looks great. I can't tell the volume, but these bars are tight enough to suggest enough volume. You could nibble here. Stop under 1360. So pesky looks good. I'll put it in a window. Pelletier, I'll put it right here. This Pelletier I got on the other computer. Just set a new alarm. I see that this is a great multiple time frame example on Pelletier. The daily is a nice buy setup and reversal, but the hourly chart is right into the gap fill and it's extended. But so ideally it goes sideways until after 3. And then it can go sideways at resistance. I have a limit Microsoft order. Long or short? I usually ask Sam that, but I don't like that. There's that's not my style. AMD. I actually like AMD better. You're long nuts and okay, I'm not sure when you got in, but you had to be aggressive because that's just not my style. Gap and goes. This pesky, pesky, I like one of the best I've seen here. If I can type pesky. That's great. Let's see if it's optionable. Paramount Sky Dance. Since it says Paramount, is that a spinoff? Is that one of those? Because I know there's been a lot of talk in the media space. Is that a? I'm gonna nibble right here myself. It is optionable. Sweet. 13 and a half. 13 and a half puts are 0 by 24. All right, so I nibbled on pesky. Pair. Okay, so really, so Sky, it's a studio. Okay, all right. All right, Fizzler, low alarm. Still fine. We just need a turn. So I'm gonna put it in a window now because it hit 200. It's in the area. It should turn between 196 and here. So ideally, it goes down to 196 and then gives us a bottoming tail. Looking at some things on my other computer here. Car. I must have missed my alarm. Car. Um, that's still a day trade short watch. Could be 30-minute low. Could be 5-minute sell setup here into the gap fill. Selling 559. Yeah, it's a good level. Yeah, I like it. Yeah, I'd like a better 30-minute high just to, give me 20 more minutes that it will hold. But I like your thinking. I see a Guggenheimer here. Whoop, that was for you, Sam. I mean, Google actually is a buy setup, but Sam, it's just another poor one because retracement from this ingestion, but it is a buy fill. And Tesla bouncing a little bit. Now that was a buy setup that failed. That was a breakout and a buy setup. And then it triggered on Tuesday. We had a put spread on that stopped out. But that was a great setup. And we were actually we were considering long and we decided to wait for the afternoon. Good thing we did. CMG new stop 42.53. Fizzler is still selling off. There's Walmart. Ooh, that's ugly. That's not doing the XRT. Oh, Walmart's worse than XRT. And what's said G is in solar, still holding well. I hope it bobbles around for a week and builds up. I want this to hold above this bottoming tail, hold above whatever 2960, and chop around for a week. That would be what I would like. That is, yeah, yeah, yeah. I like a little breakout failure. Gold sector. Hey, gold. What pattern is this, you all? Daily is a bull rectangle. Weekly is a 1, 2, 3. Look at that. ITV. We were in this in the ETF winner.